In today's video, we are tackling all things wedding-inspired DIYs. We've got your place settings, we've got your wedding backdrops, and we've got a seating chart that also doubles as a guest book. If any of this sounds exciting, I can't wait to show you, and also give us a subscribe. Let's go. Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. It is now summer, and I feel like this is peak wedding season, so I am really excited to do some wedding DIYs with you guys today. It's been a while since I've really thought about what's trending for a wedding. It's been a couple years since I had my own wedding where I did a bunch of DIYs for that. So to help me out, I asked you guys over on our Instagram to send me some photos of things you were looking to DIY for your wedding, things you were inspired by this wedding season. And I pulled a bunch of my favorite photos, and I'm gonna try and do my own DIY representation of those things for you today. And of course, doing it all with a budget mindset and using as many thrifted things as possible, because those are just my two favorite ways to DIY. And before we get into it, I want to give a big thank you to Instax for sponsoring this video. First up, we have this photo here, which is this really nice table setting. It's like the plates and the napkins and the menu. And I love how the napkin and the menu is all this really nice bundle on the plate. And I want to figure out how to DIY this, but also take it a step further, because I have this idea in mind that combines this, but also makes it like a place card. So you can label each seat so people know where to sit at the table, but also it's still got your napkin and your menu, and it just looks so pretty. Let's get into how I'm gonna DIY it. So we're gonna go ahead and start with the paper card of this table setting. I've gone ahead and mocked up my own menu for this wedding that we're having together. You can access it on our blog, linked below, and you can edit it, put in whatever food you are serving at this event. But you could, of course, also just make your own in Microsoft Word or Photoshop, whatever you like to use, and print it out. The paper I'm using today is this really nice cardstock that has almost this linen texture on it. This came just from the craft store, but you can, of course, use whatever paper, whatever texture, whatever color fits the theme of your wedding. So I'm just gonna use some regular scissors and cut out this menu. If you're using my menu template, you might notice there's 4 little tiny tick marks on the bottom half, which you can see me notching out with an X-Acto knife. The reason that we have that space there is the perfect segue for today's sponsor, which is Instax, because I'm going to be using an Instax photo in here. If you don't know, Instax products and film are so perfect for weddings and wedding DIYs. For this DIY, I'm going to be using the Instax Link wide printer. This is really cool because you can actually print out your photos ahead of time instead of having to take them on the spot with a camera. This offers a really great opportunity to provide guests with tangible photo memories that they can take home after the wedding. So I'm going to be using the Instax Link wide printer to print out photos that I have of me and my guests, assuming this is my wedding, of memories that we have together, and then using the app, I'm going to add their name on top of the photo that we have together to work as the place card. Cute, right? I literally think this is such a good idea. This is how the little menu slash place card combo is looking right now. It's so adorable. We still have more work to do to complete this to make it look like our inspiration photo. It's missing a napkin and a really nice bow tie. Of course, you could purchase fabric napkins or rent them from your wedding hall or whatever you're doing, but because it's me, we're gonna do a DIY solve, and because it's doubly me, I wanted to know if this was thriftable by any means at all. So I went out to the thrift store to look at fabric options, and turns out there are so many good linen options in the curtain section of the thrift store. Lots of curtains are made of really heavy linen, and there's just a lot of fabric to play from there, especially in kind of like the beigey cream color palette. It's not really where I would think to go to get good linen fabric, but I was surprised. There was tons of good options there, so that's just a hot tip for you at home. But I happen to have some scrap material here because we DIY things a lot and our fabric bin is overflowing. So I'm gonna be using just this white linen material to make my napkin out of today. And then I've got this, I don't know what material this is. It's really like a silky, but it's not silk. Really beautiful pinky beige material that I'm gonna use as my bow. I just think any sort of like really beautiful fabric just lends itself to being wedding-y so much. You can really get away with a lot of different options here. My fabric needed a little bit of ironing since there were some wrinkles, and then I'm just cutting them down to whatever I feel like is appropriate napkin size. Now I really like the way that the edging on this linen frays naturally, as well as the chiffon material I'm using for the bow. But if you don't like the natural fraying of your material, you can of course go ahead and hem all of these pieces that you're cutting out. Now it is time to assemble. So I'm just taking my napkin, folding it up to be about the width of the menu card we printed out, then stacking the menu on top and taking my fabric bow and wrapping that around with a really nice knot on the corner here. I really like how in the original photo there's this nice flower cutting on the place setting as well, so I'm gonna take some inspo from that and also add a flower element to my place card here. Luckily, I'm surrounded by beautiful floral arrangements today, so I'm gonna use some of just the dried flowers that we have here. Got some little bunny tails, I don't know what these little yellow ones are, but they're a really nice mustard color, and I'm just gonna pop them in behind where the Instax photo is sitting, and that should hold them in place beautifully. And ta-da! Oh my gosh, this is cute. This is really cute. That took me no time at all. It cost almost no money as well, which is a huge win for us. Let's move on to the next wedding DIY. All right, next up, we're tackling a big one. I had a lot of photos sent to me of wedding backdrops or things to stand in front of for your wedding. A lot of the reoccurring themes I was seeing are like this arch shape type structure, and also this big circle ring shape, which is really beautiful. I'm gonna do a combination of the two of them today. I'm gonna show you how you can make a giant arch shape and then fill it with lots of really cool flowers like the ones we have here around. I think it's gonna be so easy to do and look really, really awesome. We're gonna start by building a base for this because we want it to be really sturdy and not fall over. I'm gonna be using this 2" by 2" pine lumber piece to build essentially a giant H shape. That will be like the most sturdy base that we can give this thing. This is gonna be built out of 1 long piece and 2 shorter pieces. I'm gonna list the exact dimensions and steps on our blog, which you can check out linked below. All right, let's start by making some simple cuts in this wood. I'm using a measuring tape and a pencil to mark out exactly how long I want that long and 2 short pieces to be. And then I'm using a table saw to just cut that. These pieces of wood are so small that they're easily cut with a handsaw as well if you don't want to use a power saw for this. Now to assemble the base frame, I'm using some wood glue and some long deck screws to screw my short pieces into the side of my long pieces from both ends, making sure to start with some wood glue so that it's really held together solid. All right, now it's time to build the arch shape to this backdrop. To start, I'm going to be using 2 wooden dowels. These are 48 inches in length and they are in the size 5/8. To attach these into the base I've already made, I'm going to be using a spade bit that is 5/8 as well, drilling in a hole in the center of the sides of the H, and that's going to be where I can slot in my 2 wooden dowels. I've moved to the floor because this project is now getting very large, but the base is done. Looking good. Now to actually make the arch shape of that. And I'm gonna build that out of a material called PEX pipe. This is a 10-foot length, 3/4 inch in diameter. Again, we'll link everything on the blog for you. This is actually pretty affordable. You can find it in like the plumbing aisle of the hardware store. And you guys are gonna die at how simple this is to make, okay? Because we've used the right size dowel to fit in the pipe, to put it together like so. Oh, we have an arch! Are you kidding? So good! You can adjust the height of it based on where it sits on the dowels. And then to cover the rest of the exposed wooden dowel and to stop this from sliding around, I'm gonna cut 2 more pieces out of another 10-foot piece and put them over the exposed wood dowel. Okay, The arch is now assembled, which is so exciting. You could add more glue into these parts if you want to, but as you can see, it's holding together really well. And the best part about not doing glue is that you can take this apart to transport it, which makes it really easy to get to a wedding venue. Now we're on to painting it, which of course you can do whatever color you want. I'm gonna do a mix of gold and bronze spray paint. And for the base, you could also paint it like a green to blend in with the grass, or if it's on some sand, you could leave it natural. Do whatever works for you. I'm gonna go outside though, because we don't spray paint inside, usually. All right, now we're on to styling this with all of our florals. So to start, I'm using 2 pieces of this floral foam and then wrapping them around the base of the arch with some floral wire. Once the foam blocks are secured to the base, it's literally as simple as just stuffing the florals into the foam blocks. If you have taller or heavier florals, you could also support those directly to the pipe with some of the floral wire as well, but the smaller pieces should have no problem just sitting in the foam on their own. Last up, we have this photo that was sent to me. This is a beautiful wedding seating chart, and it's made out of all picture frames with some great dried florals in it, some really nice paint marker going on. I want to show you how I would kind of do this take on a picture frame seating chart, but also I have a really cool DIY twist in mind using the Instax Mini 11 that's going to turn this seating chart into a great guest book at the end. To begin, we need a picture frame. I'm gonna do it out of one really big picture frame, but you could apply this same DIY concept to a bunch of little frames like the inspo photo. So to pick up my frame, I headed to the thrift store, which of course always has so many good frames for a really good price. This is the one I ended up finding. Conveniently, it actually has some framed photos of dried flowers, which was like not intentional at all. Maybe there's a way I can dissect this and use some of this for the actual seating chart, but that's besides the point. The point is that this is one of these really fun picture frames that's so well constructed. It might be a bit tricky for me to take it apart, but that's what my challenge is right now. With my picture frame disassembled, there actually is conveniently this perfect size of white poster board in the back. I'm gonna use that to build my new seating chart on because it's a really great base and I don't have to cut a new piece. I remember these being blue as a kid. Do you know?
No. My hair was purple.
Is this a Mandela effect? Wait, you guys remember this color?
Yeah. I distinctly remember it like being under my nails, like playing with blue.
I remember it like this blue, like blue.
No.
Yeah, okay, see? This color blue.
No!
This isn't familiar?
No.
What? And that doesn't even make sense because I think you're older than me and you're younger than me. So like, it's not like it's a age thing. So to cover it, I'm gonna use some craft paper. I just think that's gonna offer a really nice contrast to the name tags I'm gonna put on after. Now for the name tags, this is another template that I went ahead and made that you can get on our website linked below. This is everyone's name put into tiny little Instax-like cards. You'll see why this matters later. But yeah, I'm printing this on a similar linen cardstock paper that I showed again earlier because it's just so pretty, I like it. And with this printed out, I'm now gonna cut it all up so I have a little Instax-sized name tag for each one of my guests. And once those have been cut out, I'm gonna space them out and glue them onto the back of the picture frame. So this is how it's looking so far, and if you have more people than fits on the board, you can always do more than one picture frame. Like the original one had, I think, a frame per table, which is really cute. Speaking of the original inspo photo, it had a lot of really nice pressed dried florals on there, as well as some beautiful script work, which I'm gonna do my best to attempt something similar. I did leave space above each row to add my table number, and then even more space on the top to add the label that this is in fact a seating chart. So let's get to that. Let's make this look a little cuter. Freehanding calligraphy can definitely be tricky sometimes, so there is literally no shame in just copying a reference photo or copying a font that you like. That way you can make sure you're getting the strokes thick where they need to be and thin where they need to be to really get that hand calligraphy look. These pressed flowers are actually just faux flowers from the craft store, and I'm gluing them down with some craft glue. Now it's time to put this frame back together. If you remember when it came apart, it had these really fancy staples in it. I'm gonna attempt a finishing nail and hammer combo and be very careful so I don't break the glass. They definitely do make framing staple guns that put in staples sideways, which you could invest in if your frame came apart the way mine did. Okay, so you might be wondering why we made all of the name cards in the shape of little Instax photos. That's because this is a 2-for-1 DIY project. Not only do you get an amazing seating chart, but this is gonna turn into a guest book when the night is done, and I'll tell you how. Felt like I'm on like an infomercial. But wait, there's more, let me show you. This little guy is the Instax Mini 11. It's a super compact and user-friendly camera, and the best part about it is that you can take pictures and get them on the spot. So you can take photos of your guests, memories from the wedding, and literally look at them instantly. I've used this exact camera at my wedding. I know lots of friends who have used this camera at their wedding, and it's a great way to create a guest book of all the photos taken of your guests after the wedding. But sometimes the tricky part is making sure that you actually end up with a photo of everyone who comes to your event. Hence, our seating chart is the perfect way. We're gonna have guests cover their names with photos of themselves throughout the night. The best way is if you see a blank spot, go snap a photo of that person, and voila, your guest book is full. And the great part is after the wedding, this whole frame full of photos and memories can be instantly repurposed as home decor in your home. If you want to learn more ways to personalize your wedding with Instax, you can check out the link in the description box. Instead of just telling you guys how great this actually would work at a wedding, I think it's better that we actually head outside and have a little wedding of our own, and I'll show you how it's done. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed these wedding inspired DIYs. I want to give a big thank you to everyone who submitted your inspiration photos. I hope I did them justice. And also I want to give a big thank you to Instax for being today's sponsor. If you want to know more ways to personalize your own wedding with Instax, you can check out the link in the description box. One thing that we didn't get to category-wise in today's video is wedding invitations. So if you want to see how I made my own personal wedding invitations, I'm gonna point you to this video that you can watch at the end here because I still love how I did them years later. They turned out good. Okay, so I wanted to bring you guys on a little adventure with me because I wasn't sure exactly how they were gonna turn out. I didn't know what I wanted. So the base of these invitations are made out of watercolor paper because I love the texture of watercolor paper and I know that I want to add a colored effect to the pages.